Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I actually called about the jury selection process because, as I've mentioned before, I'm an attorney. But if you don't mind, I would like to diverge just quickly regarding the election, the voter suppression.
Sure.
Because I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I've been calling into your show just about every month to sound the alarm about this very same thing. And I was so glad that you had Greg
Palast.
last weekend.
Yeah,
Greg Palast, thank you. Just a reminder, if you've got to prove, especially for women, if you've got to prove your nationality and with a birth certificate, and you need proof of the name difference, that's going to generally involve your marriage certificate, because it will usually have a space on it that says bride's name after marriage. Mm-hmm. Be aware that there are some states, such as South Carolina, that does not change your name as part of the marriage process.
Wow.
And so your marriage license will not have that change. And women who were married in South Carolina, but who were nonetheless residents of Georgia, or of another state that is checking, doing these name checks as a part of voting, they will need to either get remarried in the state that does change your name, or they'll have to go to court to file a petition for a name change.
And this all assumes that you can even find your marriage certificate.
Exactly, exactly.
You know.
So I'm going to sound the alarm yet again, like I do once a month. Make sure you have your birth certificate, passport, marriage certificate, or divorce decree if your name changes, part of that, because those are going to be part of verifying who you are if you get challenged by one of these nut jobs. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Regarding the jury selections, in most states, there are what's called peremptory strikes. Peremptory strikes are, I just don't get a good feeling about this person. And there's a limit to the number of those. Right. If there is a reason for cause to reject a juror, they say something like, I don't believe he's guilty. I believe this is just a show trial. Or they say something that clearly indicates that they are unlikely to be able to regard just the evidence presented and make a determination based on the jury instructions that the judge delivers, then that would be a strike for cause. The other thing, and strikes for cause, they don't have a limit, because essentially there is a reason not to put this person on the jury that's not just, I don't get a good feeling about them. And then there's something called a Batson challenge. And a Batson challenge, either side can make a Batson motion to the court to say, I believe that the other side is making their jury selections on the basis of an improper purpose. I believe that they're striking all black people. I believe that they're striking predominantly women. And so based on a Batson challenge, the other side will have to present to the judge the reasons why they chose the jurors to strike that they chose.
Is that spelled B-A-T-S-O-N? Is it named after somebody?
That is correct. Yes, it is. It's a court case. Yeah, okay. It's based on a court case. Mm-hmm. And then on the basis of a Batson challenge, because I've had this happen to me, if there was a successful Batson challenge, the whole jury pool gets put back and you start over again. Really? Batson challenges, if you lose them, they do nothing but hack off the jury because they've been sitting there for hours waiting to determine whether or not they're being selected or being let go so they can go about their life. Yeah. So that's kind of how it works. There's an art to jury selection, because what they're looking at, what you've got to kind of game out, and I'm sorry to use the word game, but what you've got to game out is it worth striking juror, let's say, number 5 as a peremptory, right? Just because you don't get a good feeling about them, when the juror that you really need to strike is number 25, because you know that person, you don't get a good feeling about them. They haven't said anything to be stricken for cause, but you know that the other side is going to want that person. So you have to game out, who are they likely to strike, and who is it worth me holding off on my peremptory strikes to get rid of? Right.
So how do you...
So that's why there are jury consultants.
As somebody who has done this and an attorney down there in Atlanta, and I realize you may or may not be familiar with New York law, but how do you expect this jury selection to go in New York, and how long do you expect it to take?
I would be surprised if jury selection is completed this week. Really? I wouldn't be. To me, I would hazard like 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because they're going to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
They're going to ask a lot of follow-up questions. And let me say this. When you have a juror who says something that is close to being worth striking for cause, you'll have the other side come back and try to rehabilitate them with follow-up questions. So those follow-up questions may be, I heard you say that you believe that this defendant is guilty. Are you saying that you can't follow the law when the judge tells you to? Are you saying you wouldn't follow the law? And that's how you try to rehabilitate them. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't.
Fascinating. So we may be in for several kind of boring weeks, essentially, as the jury selection process goes on before we hear from Stormy Daniels, which is when it's going to get exciting. Marie, thank you so much for the information. I always value your calls. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. We'll be right back.